Welcome to the Sonic Shaman Show, home of the Coffee Connect and Conscious Connections. The show is dedicated to empowering you to perceive, know, be, and express your unique voice in this world without the fear of judgment of others through healing, coaching, and educational services. In each episode, Hank and his guests offer tools, techniques, and inspiration to help you step into your potency. Now, here is your host, Hank Setala.
It's morning still. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's afternoon somewhere. And Welcome to The Power of Possibilities, a podcast dedicated really to the tools of access consciousness. And with me today, as I've had many days before this, we have Heather MacMillian, who is a certified facilitator of access consciousness. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
And today I actually put in the video description now, there is a link to the YouTube channel. The best place to comment is there to make sure that we can see it, but I have listed there all the places you can comment where we see it. And if you're watching from one of the places that isn't listed, it's not that we're ignoring you. We had somebody make 10 comments once on a stream, but it was somewhere where we didn't see it. So we love to interact with you. Just please make sure you comment on one of the places we can see. YouTube is the best. I always know that rolls through. But today is all about choosing and possibilities, because everybody has choice, but not everybody uses it. And it's the using of the choice that really starts to create the possibilities. And that's what access is really all about.
Yeah. And you and I were talking after the broadcast yesterday about we each had so many fun stories about things that we chose, and we actually had no idea how it was going to show up. And the universe, just from the choice, did everything it could to support that choice.
Yeah, and I gave the example, I was already hosting you for Foundation, and then Global's coming up, and I was like, ooh, what would it take? What would it take for me to be able to choose Global? And it's just like, well, this extra, if I don't have to tap into any of these bank accounts, then I could choose that with total ease. So I asked the universe, universe, bring this extra abundance to me. And I had like $1,000 in web sales that day. But beyond that,
how does it get better than that?
Yeah, how does it get any better than that? But the real thing is, like, some people, they always know they have the choice. And sometimes it's like you actually choosing it that puts the energy into motion for the universe to bring to you ways for that to actualize. And one example for me was back when I was just got sober, and I was really looking for some sort of class to give me a framework to use my gifts. And I hadn't heard anything about access at the time. I found Fellowships of the Spirit in Lilydale, New York for like a 2-year program. And I had no clue how I was going to pay for that. So I signed up for it. And then I get this raise at work and started hitting these bonuses, and everything just came so easily. But I have to wonder, if I hadn't chosen that, would the universe have had a reason to deliver me these extra things? And so really, what would it take for you to start, for everybody out there, to start choosing things that are going to give the universe the awareness, hey, they're really looking to actualize this and to have this show up in their life, because they've already chosen it. They've already signed up. They've already, started doing their work to make it happen. And then the universe will start to deliver you all this extra potency for it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's really the first step there is letting the universe know, hey, I'd really like this. And how many of you guys haven't even, taken a moment to ask yourself, well, what would I really like to have? Because for how many of you, if you don't really desire something, is it ever really going to show up for you?
Yeah. And for that matter, being consistent with your choice. There's a tool to access of, living in 10-second increments.
Yes.
However, giving yourself the freedom to choose again every 10 seconds is great. And at the same time, if you have something that you would really like to manifest, there's going to be a lot more of those 10-second increments that are focused on that thing. And how often do we say, hey, universe, I would like this to show up? And the universe might start to align all the things for that to show up. But the next week you've forgotten all about that and you're on to the next thing. How many times does that happen? So consistency in choice, consistency in showing the universe, hey, this is important. That is a huge thing, because it continues to add potency to whatever it is that you're looking to actualize in your life.
Yeah. And also another thing that's been so interesting in my own life with this is allowing the universe to bring it to me in the way that it can, not the way that I maybe would like it to show up.
Yeah.
Like if I'm saying to the universe, hey, what's it going to take to have this? And it brings me a possibility, and maybe I'll reject it because it doesn't match my, preconceived notion or conclusion or judgment about how it has to show up so that I can be right. I mean, that's where we put on these blinders to all the different ways that the universe may be looking to bring us things that we're asking for in a different way than we've already decided that they're going to show up.
Yeah. And the other thing to that is like, what resources do we have that if we were to start using them, the universe could use that to bring us abundance? Like I know we had, like, I'm not a web designer yet. I am a web designer, and I found I could actually,
You are a web designer.
I could do that and charge people for that.
Yeah.
And like Gary Douglas had this unique knack of, it sounds weird, like, but with antique shops and fabric and things, like having somebody's floor plan in mind and being able to find the exact right fabric that would make everything just come together in the room. And he would just like do this for people. And then he had the awareness, that's actually a potency that he has that he could actually receive benefit from and receive contribution from. And so like a big question to everyone, like what potencies do you have? What abilities do you have that you've never thought? And it's not really about monetizing, but at the same time, like these are things that you're naturally good at that come to you with so much ease that we devalue them, but yet they have value. So like, what would it take for you to receive the value for the things that you're already doing?
Yeah, because value is always a judgment.
Yeah.
It's like everything just kind of stopped when I said that. But yeah, I mean, pot and pock. I mean, how much do you judge whether what you are doing or being has any value or not?
Yeah. And here's one that really stuck me. When I was going to the 2-year program for developing like mediumship abilities, people had a really difficult time charging. And our teacher would always say, you're not charging for your gift, you're charging for your time. And like that was like for me like one of the pivotal moments to like have the awareness, like, it is my time, and how much can I help people more? And this was another turning point for me to just start charging for the things that I can do. Is that if I charge for this, I could do this work full time and help a heck of a lot more people. And if I hadn't charged for it, I would still be working in the bank, working 40 hours a week, not doing something that really, that I feel passionate about and that I don't even like the word passion. Like that's just a lot more fun for me to do. And how many other people are like that you have something that you really could be doing, that could be creating in your life that you haven't given value for, that if you were to give value for could really be a huge hub of abundance and things coming into your reality. Oh, and good morning, Magic Mike. I see him tuning in.
Hey, good morning, everybody. And hello to everyone who's hearing this in the future. We're speaking to you too.
Yep. And I see there's a lot of people watching. I see a lot of people watching on YouTube. But thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And if you do have questions or comments, bring them up. It doesn't even have to be on the topic. And if you ask a question that's going to take us in a whole different direction, we had that happen yesterday. We just played it. Yeah, we had to play a little video and dove down the rabbit hole. So there is no rules for that. Let's see. And the fake Andrew says, yes, so hard to value yourself, especially those things that come easy to you.
My gosh. Yes. Thank you so much for saying that.
And how much of that is from our parents where like, well, that's a hobby, but what are you going to do for a real job?
Oh, yes. The real job thing. Yeah. What have you decided is a real job and what's a hobby or, just an interest or a craft? Those are all definitions. Those are all judgments and points of view that if you were willing to let go of them, what would actually be possible?
What would be possible if I had let go of that earlier on? I might have been doing this work full time a lot sooner, but I had to put in 10 hours for the man first. But how much more fun would it have been to like be able to do that work full time right out of the gate, and really just, how much more possibility would I have in my life now if I had chosen that then? Not that I would change anything, because I also value like where I am today, but it's like questions like that, like what are the questions that you could ask right now that would change the trajectory of your life and have it unfold with greater possibilities, greater abundance, greater set of awareness for greater set of choices? Like, how could you exponentially your life right now? I don't think that's really a word, but you get the idea.
We'll make it one. Well, I mean, and I love your stories from the bank, and I wonder, because we've talked a few times about, what podcast or something could we create around our corporate experience, me at software companies and consulting firms, and you at the bank. What can we create with that would actually create a greater possibility now? What do you know from that no one else knows? I mean, I'm so fascinated with what you learned there.
Yeah, and the big thing, I look at everything, like even jobs like that, if it doesn't quite sync up with where you really are looking to be, could it be
Right.
on the job training for a skill set that you'll need?
Yeah.
Because like I could tell people like us how to retire now from my work with like equity trust and like self-directed IRAs, bank secrecy act compliance. There's all kinds of stuff that is really relevant to what I'm doing now. So it's all that, I have great value with it, but like now what extra possibilities could be created from that?
Yeah. And we've been asking this question the last few days, so I'll throw it out again if you guys haven't heard it, which is, what would you like your life to be like? And that's the question that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, created these amazing tools from that question. What would I like my life to be like? And if you would be willing to destroy and uncreate all the fixed points of view and conclusions and judgments you have about how that has to look and how it has to show up, then what if the universe could bring you something totally new and totally different, and maybe even something like Access, when Gary was asking this at the time, that never existed before?
Definitely. And the fake Andrew says, getting past, I know, inside joke with that.
There, isn't there?
Yeah, but getting past the fear of making that life-changing choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to some of our conversation around ego. And well, I like the acronym for fear, feeling excited and ready. Like, what if the fear about making that life-changing choice is really excitement that we misidentify as fear? Dr. Dain, in his book, Being You, Changing the World, first link I'll have to post because I'm talking about this book. He gives this amazing example of being in line to like ride on the merry-go-round or some other spinny ride, I forget. And he's excited. And mom says, now don't be afraid. And he started to associate excitement with fear. And where do we associate excitement with fear and misidentify that? And I've said this example for myself. With that example in mind, my own son, we were in Disneyland or Disney World, the one in Florida, and we were in line for Slinky Dog, and he had already not gone on so many rides because he was afraid. And I remembered this from Dr. Dain's book, and I'm like, hey, Max, are you afraid? Are you excited? And like, it really took him out of that space he was in, and he really just pondered on it for a moment. He's like, I'm excited. And he went on that ride, and we couldn't get him off. We ended up riding like we were in that line a long time because we just kept getting in and going on it again and again. And he shifted from that place of fear, misidentifying it as fear, with excitement. So like, how much ease could that bring to our choice if we were to start realizing, where are we really excited as an infinite being for this new possibility versus the ego playing this fear factor on us?
Yeah. And I mean, what is that fear distracting you from creating as well, is another question I would ask.
Ooh, because fear is a distractor implant, which we touched on a little bit, I think, on a couple streams. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, and distractor implants are these things in Access, and we talk about them in the foundation, or you can read about them on your own in this really cool book called Living Beyond Distraction. Because what are these things distracting us from? Our creativity, from being us, from creating what we'd really like to have and be in the world, and also doing the things that are super exciting and fun to us, like in your son's case, riding a roller coaster, or, how many of you have that kind of energy come up before you do something like this, where you're out in public and people are seeing you? Is that actually excitement? And if there is fear, what is that fear distracting you from creating and choosing?
And Mike just made a comment that says fear may have kept you safe, but weren't you safe already?
I know. We've talked about that a couple times on this show. And And what if the greatest possibility is awareness? And, Gary Douglas, as I've said before on this program, always told his kids to be aware instead of be safe.
Yeah, or be careful was, I think,
Yeah, or careful. Yeah, because the only time, you could ever really have a problem is if you're going to cut off your awareness in some way, shape, or form.
right. Because in pure awareness, you would just simply choose things that would never put you in a position you didn't prefer.
Exactly. Like, ooh, if I park my car here, that's not going to work out so well. Or if I choose to go out with this person. And that's where we can really ask a question too. If something's funky in your world, okay, well, what will my life be like in 5 years if I choose this? And what will my life be like in 5 years if I don't choose this?
And I love that tool because especially putting it out on trajectory, we've talked about that before. If you're new to that whole idea of feeling what's heavy and light, putting it out in 5 years, it gives it so much more your ability to perceive it. It enhances exponentially. And then eventually you'll just know heavy or light without having to use that 5-year element. But it's like a wonderful thing. And Michael is just offering the only true safety he's referring to is an awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's such a gift.
Yeah. And we did have some comments in the group. So if you guys know what's going to be coming up in some future streams, people in a local access bars group that we have, they are wanting content around conscious parenting. And
ooh, I love that.
Yeah, and relationships. So we're going to, that's not going to be for today, but I'm just letting you know, like some extra stuff that is going to be coming through. Anna's saying, I have realized I have some fear regarding my potential, and I think it holds me back at times. And there's one thing around this, like when I read this comment, and I had this up until, well, maybe elements of this, and I keep evolving through it, but imposter syndrome, like that, where you start to doubt yourself and like doubt your value or doubt what you can charge. And like there was a tool where, like, how many times have you had like these badass moments of your life where you totally use the universe to create, and like looking at those and realizing
badass moments.
Yeah, it's not technically an access tool. This was in like a boot camp that I did, but they said, and they didn't even tell us why we were making a list. We had to make a list of all of our badass moments, and like one of mine was like flying my '75 Chevelle Malibu like Dukes of Hazzard over this hill, like, but all these little things, like where you were totally a badass, and then in the moments that you're not giving yourself like the abilities or the credit, the value that you have as an infinite being, you can think of those and be like, it helps you break out of that imposter syndrome, or asking the question, what else is possible? Just to bring it back to access. I had to share badass moments though.
I know, I love that term, badass moments. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, what's the energy of a badass moment in your life? When you're functioning as an infinite being, when you're really being you.
Definitely. And Anna, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the stream, if you just were tuning in. We were also talking about how fear can sometimes be misidentified as excitement, feeling excited and ready. And could that fear regarding your potential really be the excitement of a new possibility? And the ego is just whispering, but if you choose that, we don't know what will happen. Choose this over here where you know what's going to happen, because my job is to keep you safe, quote unquote. Like realizing that, what if it's really excitement, and you can tell the ego, just, back up. Thank you for your input, but we're going to choose this anyway.
Well, and a key thing also that you mentioned a couple of minutes ago is doubt. And doubt is another one of the
distractor implants.
Yes. So I would always ask, if you're ever in doubt about choosing something or about really going for it in your life, something that you know is possible, what is this doubt distracting you from? What is this doubt distracting you from choosing? And another key tool that we only just mentioned in this series yesterday is, who does this belong to? So if there's doubt in your world, say you really love creating paintings and artwork, and you really like to make that your life and create a living with that talent and ability, and people are putting that doubt in your world, okay, well, who does that doubt belong to? And what if you could return that to sender with consciousness attached and choose what's actually going to work for you?
In the same class where I got badass moments, there was one of the girls in this class that she did painting for what she wanted to do it for a living, and she had even just bought a studio and with space where she could teach classes. Then COVID happened and it changed everything, and she
For
started
everyone.
and she started to ask the questions like, what else is possible? Like, what am I really capable of? And really started putting herself out there. And she sold and painting was not her main source of income before this. She sold $10,000 worth of her paintings in 1 month. And it's just been exponentially building. And all from the space of being afraid to step into that energy, but then asking the things like, what else is possible? What are the baddest moments of my life that I can look at and emulate for future possibilities? And getting through and moving through all those limiting beliefs. Because this class, though it wasn't access, had a lot of access like speak in it. And it was all about identifying the things that are limiting you, getting rid of them, reframing, and getting over the fear and stepping into a new possibility. It could have been an access class if they just tweaked the wording. And it's just so amazing what you can really do if you start to show up for yourself. We talked about that too the other day.
Yeah. And the word from what you said that really sticks my attention is potential. And how many points of view do all of us have about what is our quote unquote potential? And I mean, that's something that, is kind of one of those phrases that's used on childhood report cards and stuff like that. Yeah. And how much of that energy of point of view or judgment, ours or anyone else's, is the lid on the box of what we're actually capable of, what's actually possible, that's so far beyond anything that you've ever decided is your greatest potential. Because if you tap into the energy of your potential versus what's actually possible that you've never considered, which one is greater? Which one is more fun? Which one is more you?
And just with the title today, choosing equals possibilities. Like, the choices you have are the potential. The choosing that you do is what creates the possibility, because you could have all the choices in the world. If you never choose any of them, that in itself is a choice, and you're not choosing the possibilities. And like, what would it take just to make, for Anna, like, what one choice could you make today that would bring you one step closer to actualizing that potential and actually making it, not allowing it to show up, not making it show up, because it's all about allowance. That's huge. So many people, I have a dear friend recently, I did a whole stream called Create, Don't Wait. And it was inspired by this dear friend of mine that they're waiting for the world to stop changing to start creating. And I'm like, dude, it's never going to stop changing. It's like, don't wait, create. What choices could you make today? Because as the world changes, guess what? You can make new choices, and you can start that ball of possibilities to continue to roll and continue to bring things into your life. But if you continue to wait to choose, then that potential is all that you're ever going to it's like the carrot that you're chasing, but you never actually choose it.
Well, exactly. And that's brilliant, because you touched on, the action piece of it. What actions can I take today? What can I be and do today that would allow this to show up, that would allow this to come to fruition with total ease? With total ease.
I love that part. Like, everything you ever put out to the universe, always add that little clause. With ease.
With ease, please. Yeah.
And I don't know if you know the story from Gary. Mike gave an inspiration that Gary has something about parking fees costing about potential. I don't know if you know the story around parking. Mike, if you'll have to give us more context if you want us to go there, possibly, because he just gave us a little taste of the story, but I don't really know the story offhand. There's so many things with Gary and stories about how he's created things or held the space for other people to have things show up in their lives. And that's where we'll go next with this. There was, I think this was from a money class that he had taught. And one of the people, because Gary was really good, especially when Access first started. Now he has people for that, that would call people and say, "Hey, how did the class go for you? What's showing up?" Yeah. And he, in fact, I think he hired Dr. Dain to make this phone calls, which he never made.
Here, Gary and Dain. I readied the 10 Keys book. I've been talking and referencing it so much lately that I have it computer side today. So
I'll look up the links for the books in a second as well.
Awesome.
But in this phone call, it was all about money and abundance. And this lady said, "Well, nothing is happening. Nothing showing up." He's like, "Well, tell me what's been going on in your life." And here, her point of view was that abundance was only going to be money.
Right.
And,
Cash.
yeah, but
Or-
someone had gifted her like a 10,000 designer wardrobe or something like that, a car,
Mhm.
and somebody was going to go travel the world for a year. I'm like, hey, would you like to stay at my house, which is like a crazy house, and house sit for me for 1 year? He's like, wait, so this shows up, this shows up, this shows up, but nothing's happening? So like, where have we come to conclusions and not seen the universe? Because once you thank the universe what did show up, guess what happens? More shows up.
How does it get better? How does it get better, universe? What else can we create?
Yeah, because like it's just like really the energy of acknowledging what shows up, like reinforces to the universe that, yep, I'm on the right track with what I'm bringing you, and then it can continue to build on things showing up in your life. So start choosing, start acknowledging what shows up based on those choices, and reinforce to the universe like what else is possible, and how does it get any better than this?
Yeah, and one of the fun questions from Gary, I don't recall which of his classes or telecalls recently this came from, but I've been having so much fun with adding to my life. What can I add to my life that would make everything easier? What could I add to my life that would make everything more fun? And this is another question is, what else is possible? I mean, what other revenue streams are available? And where have you decided that this is the only thing?
Right. What else? That's a huge what else is possible. And and really then go back to what are you really good at that comes so easily to you
Yes,
that
I
doesn't
love
for
that.
others.
Yeah.
Because like I never had thought about like web design. Well, that actually is kind of fun for me now that I started doing it. But I had to redo my own websites, and I learned design work on a whole nother level. And then I just made a site and got paid for it. It's like, wow, like really, it's something that came so easily for me. Like, well, this is so easy. Why would someone pay me for it? But for other people, it's not. And so that's the thing, like really realize that the things that are your greatest potencies, they might come so easily for you, and you don't realize just how great of a gift that is, because for somebody else like me or Heather, maybe it doesn't come as easily at all. And that is the things that, how could you look at that and use that as a tool to create with the universe to bring more ease and possibility and actualize things that you'd love to show up in your life?
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And what's actually possible to create a totally phenomenal life doing things that you love and that you enjoy and that are pleasurable for you?
Yeah. And one thing I'll pick on Magic Mike, I was redoing my kitchen and he came over and did mud work for me, and like he has this gift that because that is not fun, guys. It is not fun at all. And I don't know if you know what mud work is, but it has to do with like plaster and drywall. But that is like a huge gift that he has that could be potentialized into something else that, well, this is so easy. I couldn't possibly make money doing it, but you can. So it's really just one little example, and I'm throwing it out for Magic Mike because that is one of the things that you are super gifted at, brother. So
yeah. And what else is fun for you that you could make money at? What else could you add?
And also, let's talk about what could just bring you joy.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking about Simone's thing from yesterday, money follows joy, joy doesn't follow money. And so what energy could you truly be that would allow the universe to bring you opportunities to express that being through doing, which would include giving you opportunities to make money or be abundant?
Well, exactly. So what projections, expectations, separations, judgments, rejections, fixed points of view do you have that you can't do things that are joyful and fun for you and simultaneously have money? Everything that is, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And for those of you who are new to that, that's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. So if you notice when we started talking about money, even just saying the word money and the word joy, there was this sense of like separation between the things that are joyful and the things that make us money. So everything that we've all done to create that separation, because that's so much of how this reality functions, of like, I've got this thing that I do during the day that's hard and that is suffering. And then when that's done, then I get to do the fun stuff. What if it could all be ease, joy, and glory? What are the infinite possibilities for that? And what choices could we make today that would allow that to actualize?
Awesome. And I finally got wise that we always bring up the clearing statement. And so in the description of the video, you're going to find a link to the website on Access Consciousness that has a video that explains it all in great detail. I also added the link to the app, Who Does This Belong To, which we talked about yesterday. So there's just all these little extra links with different tools that we're talking about very consistently on the streams that I just finally put them all in. And there's also a link to Heather's profile page and the Access site, my profile page and the Access site. So if you want to connect with us, you can go directly to our sites. And I also added this link, emergenceofbeing.com/possibility, which is all the Access events specifically that my company Emergence of Being is hosting with Heather in the upcoming months. So there's also a link there so you can check out the foundation class, which you've been mentioning, the How to Become Money workbook, which is one of my favorite things, which she has a Facebook group for too. So it's a lot more.
It's already there. I'm already posting stuff in there because when it comes to me, I'm like, oh, this will contribute to people who are taking this class. So I put it in there and it's so much fun already. And what else can we create with that? So this is the How to Become Money workbook. And I love it because it gets you out of those places where, like Hank was talking about, where you've concluded that money is a certain thing, where you've defined it and you may be ignoring where it's actually showing up for you.
Yeah, there was one exercise in there where they were giving the example, and people who do energy work can really relate to this, like where you just start pulling in energy from everything and everywhere. And then when you put the qualifier on it, now pulling money from everything everywhere, everybody's energy goes, wah, wah. Right? So like that's just an example of all the filters and the projections and the judgments and conclusions that we have around money, that as soon as you bring the word money in, because of how we're taught, it completely shifts the ease around it, where I can pull in energy like Reiki energy or something like that easily, but add money, won't. So like what would it take to break through all of that so that money could come as easily as breathing or as pulling in the infinite amount of energy from the universe? Because it's all energy. It's just what, how much you're able to receive that and then actualize it.
I know. I mean, how many of you guys are aware of the second we started talking about, we were talking about creativity and creating your life and fun and joy and all that kind of stuff. And then as soon as we brought in the money piece, there's this kind of
resistance.
So, I mean, just to acknowledge that and another cool tool of access with all of this is just allowance. What would it take to be in total allowance? Interesting point of view.
Yeah, and I could also see, because I can see the viewership of how many people are watching, and we were so consistent. And as soon as we really started talking about money and that type of thing, it dropped by half. So
wow.
It's so why maybe there's a clearing needed for just our own self-worth or our own all the preconceived notions that make it so uncomfortable to even talk about it.
Well, and oh yeah, okay, so there it is. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I mean, how many of you guys have the projection, the expectation, separation, judgment, rejection, fixed point of view, or some sort of implant that it's wrong or bad to talk about money, and that it's wrong and bad to talk about money in public? Because here we are, we're streaming how many different places right now?
A lot.
It's always a lot.
I think 13.
Yeah. And I know for me, growing up, the finances were always kind of hidden from me. I mean, was that what it was like in your family? Did they talk about it openly?
Yeah, no, it was, and it's part of corporate America even. You cannot ask somebody else, how much money, how big of a raise did you get? It's you don't talk about it. And, I think that's probably a thing of control, because what if I'm making more than the top performer right next to me because of whatever reasons or whatever? But it's you never would talk about money.
Can you say that 3 times?
We can never talk about money. You can never talk about money. You can never talk about money.
Ooh, all the secret, hidden, invisible, covert, unseen, unsaid, undisclosed, and unacknowledged implants and explants, creating that as a reality. Can we now destroy and uncreate all of that?
Yes.
Whew. Right, wrong, good, bad, all 9 pop, shorts, boys and beyonds. And that if you'd like to know more about what all that weird stuff is, that's in Living Beyond Destruction, or the foundation class. But basically, it's all these things that we're keeping hidden from ourselves, from the world, and everything that we've done to make money this kind of hidden, secret, covert, wrong thing that we're not allowed to talk about publicly.
Ooh.
Oh, can we destroy and uncreate that?
Yeah. And the awareness that I just had, like, say you don't make a lot of money, you don't want to share because you're ashamed of how much money you make. And if you make a lot of money, you don't want people to judge you or want things from you because of the amount of money you make. So no matter what, we've been taught to hide how much money we make because, you're either going to be judged for it either way. And so it's kind of like this paradox of judgment that occurs with money, but not wanting to talk about it for one reason or another.
Yes. So everything that this is, and everything that allows this to exist, can we destroy it and create it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Wow.
And one thing that, from the Access world, one thing that really started to shift allowance for me around money and finances, and I forget where it came from. I probably have heard it in a whole bunch of classes, but the statement, can you change the world more with money or without?
Yeah, thank you.
And let me just give the expo as an example. I run a 33,000 square foot holistic show. It generated like 135 different vendors and things. Like if I didn't charge and things for things, like I wouldn't have been able to create that, because charging people for things and being in the allowance of charging for value and for your gifts and your time and all that, we created this 2-day event that bring thousands of people through the door. And how much change did that create in the world? I have romance stories that people have emailed me. I met my partner at one of your shows at a workshop. I mean, like, that's all these things,
fun.
like, so really, like, when you start looking at the money, think of it from the kingdom of we and not the kingdom of me.
Yeah.
Because for those of you that are watching here, I guarantee you're not watching this out of the idea of being quote unquote rich, like, like rich people rich. It's like you're here because you've heard this calling of the impulse of the soul. And part of being able to fully express that is to have the tools and the resources where you might be able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And part of that's money. Like, what if you could have a retreat in Costa Rica and have a foundation class there, for example, like, or whatever your passion is. If it's yoga, if it's painting, if it's a lawyer, like helping people like just divorce easily. I'm just giving examples that are maybe more non-traditional. Like, what if being able to receive from the universe and have more money would allow you to reach more people and change more lives and have more possibilities in the world for everyone, not just for you?
Well, and what if the greatest gift that you can give the planet is your choice for ease, joy, and glory? And is it easier and more joyful and more glorious to handle things in your life and contribute to those around you with money or without it? Dr. Dain Heer tells a really beautiful story about, and Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, has said this for years, that what if the purpose of money is to change people's realities? And so does that give you a different point of view to function from with regards to money? And Dr. Dain Heer, his nephew was not having a good time in the public school, and he actually funded his nephew to go to a private school where his gifts were celebrated and his difference was celebrated, and he could have more space to create and be him. And that was a choice that was made possible by his willingness, by Dr. Dain's willingness to have more money.
Yeah, it's things like that you don't consider, and like how much change is this child going to create in the world because his potentials were cultivated and not what's the word I want to use? Standardized away. Because it was
judged away. Yeah.
I'm thinking of schooling, how standardized testing and everything. Because like one of my kids tests very well.
Yeah.
My other kid with tests does not, but they're both, as far as my view, is equally bright. Just one, I would rather just get through the test and take the time to really understand this question. Is kind of the energy I get around it. And so, like, what if he was in an environment where they would give him a different way to look at that test? or a different type of test altogether in order to cultivate to the way that he thinks. But because we're all uniquely different, we're not all the same, yet we have like one system for things in most cases.
Yeah. And so whose realities can you change with money?
Yeah, there was another thing that came up earlier. What about the energy behind it's a lot easier being poor?
Ooh.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier being poor. It's a lot easier being poor. It's a lot easier being poor than being judged.
Wow, all that is, and all this chicu stuff underneath that, and everything holding it in place. Can we destroy it and create all of that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And I would ask a follow-up question to that. And for whoever has that point of view, in what way, shape, or form have you decided, judged, computed, and concluded that that's easier for you?
Yeah. And it could also be a subconscious implant from this concept from Access. The word understanding. This was
Yes.
a huge awareness for me. I did a whole stream about it on my channel, The Trap of Understanding, is that what if, like, how many people have parents that make interesting choices that you then say, I wish I understood them, or a friend or a relative.
Or we married someone who's...
Yeah. And then, but because what you're doing is you're putting yourself underneath the energy in order to understand that energy. And other than consciously, subconsciously, through choice and non-choice, you end up creating a set of circumstances that might emulate their environment that put them to the place where they made that choice. And then all of a sudden, oh, I totally understand why they made that choice because I created the same thing. So like, what would it take for you to have awareness of their choice without understanding their choice, so you can make a different possibility for yourself?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought up this topic, because it's one of the things, it came along, and there's a body process that goes along with this. Because how many of you guys have been trying to understand people and their insane choices, and you've been using your body to facilitate that understanding? So maybe there's some stuff that's locked in there. So there's an amazing body process that's in the foundation, and you can take it as its own class or in a 3-day body class as well, to really unlock that and get free from it. And at my first facilitators class, I was in Australia, and that process came out, and everyone was swapping it at breaks, before class, lunch, after. And I recall waking up and having no idea who, what, where, when, why, and how I was, because I was so different.
Is this the biometric mimicry?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. That's the name of the process.
That's the name of the process. And I was like, whoa. I mean, just the sense of peace and space that was available was so different.
Yeah, I like to think of the body process from Access, because there's like over 60. There's probably been more than that.
So many, yeah.
Just like the foundation class, they'll change that manual too with what's changing in the world. But I like to think of it this way when I work with clients: like, what flavor of Baskin Robbins ice cream does this person need? Because it's kind of like that. There's all these different flavors of energy. And the unique thing with Access is they acknowledge that everybody arrived to the point that they are from a different set of circumstances. And so for this person, maybe I run energy A, B, and C, but the next person I'm running Z, M, and then O, just to give a totally, but they may have the same issue showing up because we all ride their different ways. So it's like, just, there's so many different tools and acknowledgement of how different we are and how different things might facilitate different changes and different possibilities for different people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why, I mean, you touch on every one of these streams with us has been different based on who's watching it now and in the future. And every Access class is different. And we're both, I know you're so excited. I am so excited about the every year, the foundation class gets rewritten by Gary and Dain, the co-creators of Access. And it's getting rewritten in just a couple weeks.
Yeah. And for anybody who's there's these cool things in Access called Parties of Possibility, and Emergence of Being is a pop for the global. So if you are local to Cleveland at all and you were considering the Global Foundation, that you can come, and I put out zero gravity chairs. We get blankets. Everybody has a little table with snacks and drinks and everything, and we end up watching it on a big screen TV. And then we have a computer in the other room that if you want to ask a question, they take them through Zoom or WhatsApp. I forget which thing they use, but there's a separate room where we have it set up so you can still go in, and it's almost like being there, but better because you're way more cozy, in my opinion. So, but if anybody's local, but in terms of a foundation class, that for me has more of an energy. Like there's another class in Access called Choice of Possibilities, because the whole class is the CFs, the certified facilitators, asking questions, and everybody's supposed to go do the body processes, but it's really all about these questions to rewrite the manual. Where a full foundation class, which I have been through, when is this? I'll get you the dates in a moment. The thing that with the actual foundation, like with what Heather teaches, it's more structured. We go through the whole manual and we do the body processes. So it's I get more. Well, they have their own animals, really. And let's see, when is the Global Foundation?
The Global Foundation is April 30th, and it's live in Mexico, if that's convenient to you to get to Mexico, or it's online. And there is, last I heard, over 100 parties of possibility, including the one in Cleveland, which is so awesome and really a nurturing space. And really fun people. And the cool thing about a party of possibilities is that you can get your bars run and that you have other bodies to swap the body processes with. Because that, for me, is one of the key things about, showing up live to a class is, I facilitate the foundation and you can take it online. And one of the cool things about being with people is that you get to have that time to swap bars, to swap body work, to have other people's questions contribute to you and your body.
And let's see, because I know it's right over the weekend. So I think it's the 30th. Well, you already gave the dates, didn't you? And
the 30th.
30th. 30th, 1st, 25th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And here's the bonus. If anybody who comes to the Party Possibility on the last Friday of the month, I always do a ceremony and sound, like a concert with like my big crystal bowls and everything.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So you will get global, and then we're going to have the concert. So anybody who is at the Party Possibility, you're welcome to stay, and you can get like a 2 for,
another party.
Yeah, you can have another party and bliss out. Like you will really be liquid after that. A whole day of facilitation followed by ceremony and concert. How much fun could we have with that?
Yeah, that's amazing. And with all of these, how much fun can you have? And what would your life be like in 5 years if you chose it?
Definitely. Foundation definitely changed me. There was a question. Let me switch back. Someone's saying woohoo. And if you're in watching any of the Facebook groups, if you open up the video description, there's a link that says give permission to StreamYard for us to know who you are, because we only see Facebook users. If you do click that link and give us permission for StreamYard, we'll actually see who you are. And I'm not sure which group, because we're going to the Emergence of Being group, Holistic Health and Healing, and the local Ohio Bars group. So if you're in any of those, groups, we can't see you unless you actually click the little link. But we're happy to talk to you.
We're happy you're here. We're grateful you were with us through the money conversation.
Yes, all of you stick around. So all of you'll get abundance, and everybody who dropped off, no abundance for you.
Well, and people ask, about doing the How to Become Money workbook, and this has been one of my.
Did I freeze or did she freeze? Somebody froze.
I froze. Pock and pod, pock and pod, pock and pod, pock and pod.
If you can hear me, let me know you can hear me. Hopefully. Am I back? Was I gone or were you gone?
Oh, I'm not sure. That's so funny. Pock and pod, 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 pock and pod.
5911. Okay.
Wow. I wonder if we've given people all they can hear right now. I'm
Possibly.
grateful to you guys. Am I back? Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yay. I was just about to launch into something that perhaps will make its own separate stream. What else is possible?
But for those of you who did make it through the money conversation, when you do run into something that's really uncomfortable, like really ask the question, like, what's right about this I'm not getting? Or what would
Yeah.
be a
What
different
is
possibility
this?
on this? So yeah, like what is this? Is it even mine? Like how many people dropped off when they may have been an empath and were picking up on everybody else's uncomfortability and made a choice based on somebody else's data? Like how often do we make choices based on somebody else's data? Because how aware are we? And like with the tool, who does this belong to? You can get rid of all that data and really make choices based on your own knowing, because those are the best choices based on what you know to be true and not what somebody else knows to be true that you're aware of.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh. And that tool of who does this belong to, asking it for 3 full days for everything, every little thing that comes up. What freedom could that create?
Amber says, did it work? Can you see me now? We can see it now, Amber.
Yay! Hello.
Cool. I had a feeling it was you, but I wasn't 100% sure. But I'm glad that you are joining us for
I'm
another
glad you're
conversation.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you who got value out of this and made it through the money conversation,
Maybe it's like cresting Everest or something.
if you would like to be a contribution to us and our work, please consider sharing the video and on the YouTube stream, liking the video, making a comment after it's done. All that stuff helps. Just like we said, the universe, you tell it what's important. You're telling the universe that this content is important and it needs to get it out to more people. So what contribution could you be for us? And we would so appreciate any of that. And she says, "Yay, hi guys!" She's so happy that she can be we can see your emojis. It's all good. So awesome. Yeah, but maybe that's a wonderful place to stop for the day.
Yeah.
And both Heather and I are traveling, and if we can stream over the weekend, we will. It will depend on who has what Wi-Fi where.
Yes, because we're both on like a wire connection, and interesting things show up with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, when Heather and I had our first like create meeting via Zoom, there was so much involvement from the like we couldn't, like, she dusted off, literally she got a landline, dusted off the phone so we could actually have a conversation, and then we realized that we need to be hardwired when we stream because there's just so much stuff going on energetically that we've tanked our connection. Even now we're plugged in and we still had stuff happen.
Yes. Yeah. And wow. I'm so grateful. This has been so much fun. And this was cool streaming at this time. I got in my morning run in the woods and had my nature time. And
and the later in the afternoon, the other thing is at 11 o'clock, like I know Anna was on, she's on the West Coast. So like there's a whole other pocket of people that are like waking up when we were starting. And so
awesome.
but then with the people that are on at 8 o'clock, those are the people that are at work right now. So it's nice to rotate it around and see like who shows up at the different times. But regardless of when you show up now or in a replay, thank you so much for watching. And what contribution could you be? What choices could you make that can start to bring possibilities to you, bring you greater awarenesses, greater choices, so that you and all of people kind can thrive? That's the purpose of Access in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Mankind. I was being politically correct.
Well, how much fun can we have? And I love the topics that we're going to talk about next. Kids and
conscious parenting, relationships. I got to read the book. There's a book by Simone and Brendan, which is ironic because they were a couple and now they're not. And they wrote the book, Relationships, Are You Sure You Want One? And there is a whole bunch of juicy stuff in there. So I'm going to brush up a little bit before that conversation because that's a whole nother world of possibilities.
Yeah, or Divorceless Relationships by Gary Douglas. Like that was...
I didn't even know about that one.
That's a juicy one because a divorceless relationship is one where you don't have to cut off any part or piece of you. You get to have and be everything that you are. And so does the other person, which is the other key piece of that.
Ooh, and that's even touched on a little bit in Dr. Dain's book, Being You Changing the World. He talks about getting into a car and having to cut parts off of you to fit and stuff like that. So, yeah, so whatever, I'll have resources ready next time. I'll have all these links. I should just have a list of all the links of Access Books. So as we use it, because they all are really great things, and it's a lot of the same content, but with a different theme of how you can apply the content. So if you read one Access book and you read another one, you're like, it's the same stuff. It is, but it isn't, because it's the same tools applied to a different theme. And it's like a night and day. I haven't found an Access book yet that I haven't liked. Let me say it that way.
Oh, they're all magic. And if, and I keep them on my Kindle, because if I'm somewhere and I have a few minutes, it's so fun to just pull up one of the books and be like, hey, universe, what would contribute the most right now? Like, what would you like me to hear? And I'll just be like, whoa.
Ooh, and the Kindle, the other fun thing with the Kindle, when I've been doing the book readings, I've been bringing up the cloud reader so people can see me.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And they can read along, which is like a whole nother cool thing about having it on the Kindle. I have them on Kindle, and I also have them on Audible, because I like to listen as I drive, and because I have way more time to listen to things as I'm working than I do to actually read. So, and there's something too, most of them have clearings in them, and if you're listening to it, you're getting the processing on a whole nother level. A whole different level. And it's just a lot of fun. A different experience than if you're just reading it. Or if you're reading it out loud, if you don't have Audible, that works too, because you're saying it yourself and you're hearing it in addition to reading it. So you're just engaging all the senses.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. How much more fun can we have?
Yeah.
Thank you.
On that note, thank you everyone for tuning in. How much fun could you have on the stream? If you subscribe and get notified when we go live, then you can always be part of the conversation. So until next time, we will catch you later.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today for the show. The Sonic Shaman is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit emergenceofbeing.com to learn about all the contributors and learn about our services and upcoming events. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You can contribute to the show by supporting our efforts and sharing our content with those you care about and those who need it most.